Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I'm Lauren. If you haven't seen any of my videos before, I'm a distance runner. Most of my videos are about running, and I thought it would be interesting to do two things today. So the first one would be to get a body composition analysis, or a DEXA scan. So I've gotten two of these before, so I can actually compare today's results to previous results from different training cycles and different periods in my running history. And I also wanted to get my first VO2 test. The first video that goes up will probably be the body composition analysis, where I can show today's results and two previous tests that I've had, how they change over time, and what my body composition was in those different training cycles. And then the next video will be the VO2 max test and results. So first thing I did today was get the body composition analysis. So these are done with a DEXA scan, so it only takes about 5 minutes. You just lay on a table, the machine will just scan your body head to toe. It'll get bone density, lean tissue, and body fat for different areas of your body and your body as a whole, and it'll give you a nice report. So once we get back home, we can sit down and take a look at my body composition analysis results, and I can kind of talk you through today's results, what kind of training I've been doing today that's probably what kind of training I've been doing the last few months that's probably influencing today's results, and then show you some of the results I've had at previous testing. I had one this past spring and then the spring before that. My first body composition analysis was during the Mountains to Beach marathon training, so my first marathon training cycle. And this past DEXA scan in the spring was during my Boston marathon training cycle. I'll go over my recent training when I talk about today's results, but I'm not in a marathon training cycle right now, but I have been doing decent volume. I've been racing and things like that, so I'll go over my recent training when I go over today's results.
So head down on that side there, face up, and then in line with that center line there, kind of running down the middle of the table. Yep, that's good there for the head position. And then for the arms, we're just going to kind of bring them in just like that. Alright, good there. Leave your heels where you're at, but point your toes towards each other. Yep, you go and relax the legs there. Alright, cool. I'm going to go ahead and get the test started for you. Test should only take you, just like last time, about 5 minutes. And if you need anything, I'll be right outside, so just let me know.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, no worries, here we go. All set.
Hey guys, so I'm back from my body composition analysis. I have it up on my computer right here, so if you see me kind of looking over here for reference, that's what that is. So some context before we go through the results. This is the third time I've gotten a DEXA scan at the same location. So they actually share plots and charts of my results based on my first visit, my second visit, and this recent visit I just had, my third visit. So they create little line graphs and charts for you so you can kind of see change over time. Ideally, you'd be getting fitter over time, and we'll get into that. A lot of that is where I've been in my training cycles when I got these scans. So I just wanted to say my first body composition analysis scan, I think I got when I was training for my first marathon, which was my better marathon, my faster marathon, my first sub 3. So that was about 1.5 years ago now. So I would consider that probably my fittest period. It's based on a little bit of my subjective experience. I'm still aerobically fit right now, but I haven't been doing as strenuous workouts. I haven't been doing my supplemental strength training or anything like that. So I think this first DEXA scan from 1.5 years ago that you'll see kind of in reference is probably when I was at my fittest. And then I got a DEXA scan this past spring when I was training for Boston, which wasn't as good of a training cycle. I didn't hit as many of my workouts. I actually missed a ton of workouts, and I was trying to put in the mileage volume, but I wasn't putting in the intensity. So that, I would say, was a less good training cycle, and that's kind of reflected here too. And then the scan I just got, my third scan, not during a marathon training cycle, so my volume's a little bit lower, my intensity is a little bit lower, and I feel like I'm probably in a little bit less good shape even than even than the marathon training cycle from the spring, just because my mileage is a little bit lower, intensity is a little bit lower, and I just don't feel like I'm in as good shape. And like I said, I've been running about 60 miles a week, or about 100 kilometers a week for the past month or two. If you average across the whole year, that's probably about what my volume is across the whole year. I run roughly 3,000 miles a year, so that's roughly 60 miles a week for 50 weeks-ish. So I go through training cycles. Obviously, marathon training, my mileage might peak at 80 miles a week, and then off season might be 30 to 50. So I'm kind of in that middle zone where I'm running about 60 miles a week, so not super high, not super low. I haven't really been doing any strength training. I've been very, very bad about it. I would say it's probably been months since I did a real strength workout or any kind of regular strength routine. So I feel a little bit softer, a little bit less strong than I would if I was following a regimented workout and strength training plan cycle. So that's kind of the backstory and the context. So when we go through these results, you'll kind of see those training cycles reflected in the results. Basically that I've gained a pound or two every time I had a DEXA scan, because I'm less muscular, less strong, less fit based on when I'm getting the DEXA and where I am in my training cycle. But it's only like a pound or two fluctuation here and there. But you can kind of see the differences in lean tissue and fat tissue and things like that. And I think that's really just reflecting where I am in my training cycle. It has my height. I'm 5'7". Up here at the top, they have the last 3 dates I've been tested. So February 2018, March 2019, and then December 2019. So the very first time I got my DEXA scan during my first marathon training cycle, I was at 18.5 body fat percent, which for a female athlete is pretty standard. Obviously, a lot of women get a lot leaner than that, and a lot of athletes might carry more fat than that. But for a distance runner, marathon training, 18.5 seems pretty reasonable to me. This last one in the spring, I was 20% body fat, so still pretty lean, still pretty athletic, but I gained a little bit. And then this recent scan, I'm at 21% body fat. So again, not a huge leap, but a little bit. Still well within normal, healthy, lean female ranges. So my weight's changed a few pounds too. So the first training cycle, when I was at what I consider my fittest, I was 127. In the spring, I was 130. Now I'm 132. A total of 5 pounds over the last year and a half, which, again, if I went through a pretty rigorous marathon training cycle, I'd probably lose that 1 or 2 pounds. It'd be less than a 5% change in body composition. I really stay within probably that 5 pound window year round. So that's pretty much what I expected. And then they give you a breakdown of pounds of fat tissue, pounds of lean tissue. I think the last one is bone density. So my bone density is really high and it's stayed consistent. But you can basically see reflected my fat tissue's gone up a few pounds and my lean tissue has also gone up a pound. So I haven't gained pure fat, I've gained a little bit of muscle, but I've gained a little bit more fat than I have muscle. And that's reflecting the fact that I'm not doing a lot of strength training, and I haven't for months. But now that it's winter, I'll probably be inside more and I'll probably be doing more strength training. So it might be interesting to get another scan in the spring after I've done a period of probably lower volume running and more strength training. So maybe we'll do that in the spring, we'll see. They do provide a whole head to toe scan of your body, color coded based on where you carry your fat and your lean tissue. So I'm basically very lean in the torso, pretty lean in the upper body. I don't carry a lot of muscle or a lot of fat. There's just not a lot going on up there, especially for a distance runner. But my legs carry a lot of lean tissue and a lot of fat. So I carry a lot of weight in general in my lower body, which is common of a lot of women. Even if you're a runner, even if you're not, you're probably going to carry a lot of weight in your lower body. So they have a breakdown of specific areas of your body. So they do your arms, leg, trunk, android, and gynoid. So like your hips and butt. And then they do your right, then they compare your right and left, like your right and left arm and your right and left leg to look for asymmetries. So they have my total body fat percent for each region of the body. So like my arms have a higher body fat percentage because I don't do any upper body strength training, whereas my trunk is at 19% body fat, and my android, like my abdominals, are at 18% body fat. So my core is very lean, but my arms and legs are like 23-24% body fat because I don't do any strength training there. But all the running keeps my core and my torso pretty lean. So it averages out to 21% for my whole body, but it does vary by region. And then they also give you the pounds of fat and lean tissue for each of those areas. The trunk and the android are my two leanest parts, so my abdominals and my overall torso. But then my arms, legs, and gynoids, so like the hips, upper thighs, and butt, carry a little bit more fat, which I would expect. Then they look at the ratio of android to gynoid fat, the AG ratio, which is basically an index of like your waist size and leanness to like your hips and butt, and it's a measure of that visceral abdominal fat, which is really unhealthy to carry around your midsection. So if that ratio is less than 1, that's good. So my ratio when I first got this test was really low. It was 0.48, so I was like super lean in the torso. Now it's 0.73, so it's still under 1, it's still good, but not nearly as low as it used to be. They have a measure of your visceral adipose tissue, so they have that plotted over time here too. I had virtually no abdominal or visceral adipose tissue the first time I got this test. It was 0.07 pounds. So when I was in peak marathon form, I carried about half a pound of visceral fat in my abdominals, and that was it. Now I carry 0.29 pounds of visceral fat, which is still very low, but obviously not as ridiculously lean as I was during peak marathon form. So still low, still good, just not super lean as it used to be. As long as your VAT is 0 to 52, you're considered ideal and healthy, and mine is still less than 1, so still very healthy. And then they have muscle mass balance analysis. So this is where they're looking at the right and left side of your body and comparing do you have any muscle or fat kind of imbalances from your right to left. So they do your total arms, right arm versus left arm, and then your total legs, right leg versus left leg, and then they look at the difference. So the total mass difference between my arms is 0. So the total weight is the same, but the fat distribution is a little bit different, and that's because I'm right-handed. So I use my right arm a little bit more than my left, so there's going to be a little bit of imbalance there just because most people favor one arm over the other. But the overall weight distribution, the difference is 0. There's a little bit of difference in fat mass, just 0.1 pounds difference between my two arms, 0.2 pounds difference in lean mass. So not a huge difference, not too bad. For my legs, there's a 0.5 pound difference in total mass. There's a little bit of difference in fat and lean tissue, but it's very low. It's 0.8% difference across my legs. So if it's under 1%, that's really low. My legs are relatively balanced, so that's good. Most people are perfectly symmetric. Then they have the total body bone density report. So a lot of runners have higher bone density. I've been running a few years now, and I'm still pretty young. I've never broken a bone, knock on wood. So my bone density is really high. It's pretty much the highest it could be on the chart. It's very good, excellent, great bone density. And they have a little scan here where they show your bone density in grayscale, and darker means higher bone density. So especially in runners, they see much higher bone density at the joints, like hip, knee, and ankle. They see that for everybody, but it's much more pronounced in runners, so you can kind of see that on the body scan too. Then there's a regional fat tissue analysis. So they look at your arms, they look at your legs. A lot of it is similar information to what we saw before. Then they have the regional muscle mass analysis. So they do the same analysis for fat tissue and muscle tissue. And they have the charts for me and the 3 different measurements over time because I've had repeated measurements. Then they have supplemental results listed at the end, and this includes estimated resting metabolic rate. So my estimated resting metabolic rate is 1,392 calories a day. The last couple times I got the test, it was like 5 or 10 calories less than that, 1,386, 1,382. So it's been pretty similar. That probably won't change a lot unless I put on a lot of lean tissue, and then maybe that resting metabolic rate will go up. They also look at your relative skeletal muscle index to give you a measure of bone health. So women's should be greater than 5.45, mine's at 6.9. So again, I know I have pretty high bone density, pretty strong bones because of the running, because I've well fed and I work out, haven't broken a bone and all that. So that's kind of a recap of my body composition analysis. So I thought it was interesting to take a look at just as a runner who's gone through different training cycles and different types of training in terms of incorporating more strength or less strength, or higher volume running or lower volume with higher intensity running. Just to see what kind of effect that has on my body. So this kind of thing is useful to do too at the beginning or at the end of a training cycle, just to get an idea of measurable changes in your body composition as you're putting your muscles in your body through training stressors and trying to look at the effects and measure performance. This obviously isn't a direct measure of performance. It's not going to tell me how fast I'm going to run. It's not going to tell me really what kind of shape I'm in and what my body can do. For me, it's mostly just out of interest, looking at the effect different training types have on my body and even different regions of my body. Like if I were to start doing upper body strength training and just lifting more weights in general, I'd probably see really drastic changes here because I don't do any upper body strength right now. So if you're embarking on a new training plan, especially if it involves like specific muscle groups or a specific type of training, or you're making a big change between your balance of anaerobic and aerobic training or weights and cardio, it might be interesting to do this kind of scan too, so you can see that change and that progress in your body. Again, a lot of this, when I got this scan, I kind of knew what the results would be. I figured I was a pound or two heavier, and I figured I was a little bit less lean because I know how I feel, I know how I look, I know what my training's been like, and it seems kind of common sense when I look at it and I think about what I've been doing for the last few weeks, the last few months. This makes sense to me. So if you're really in tune with your body and your training, it might not be super informative to do this, and if it's not something you need to know, like it might not be worth the money. The place I got this has sales all the time, so I just bought a package deal for a body composition analysis and VO2 max, just because I thought it'd be interesting to know and kind of see where I'm at. So this by no means means that you need to have numbers like this to be a good runner. It doesn't mean you need to be a certain percent body fat or have a certain amount of lean tissue. Everybody is different. Everybody has a different build, a different composition, and different adaptation potential. So I'm not saying you need to train like me, look like me, have a body composition like me to try to run similar times or anything like that, but it might be a useful training tool depending on what your goals are. So hopefully you found that interesting. If you guys have any questions for me, you can leave them down in the comments. And if you'd like to see another one of these scans in a few months, maybe after I've started a new training regimen, added in more strength training, or maybe after a marathon training cycle, let me know. I think that might be interesting. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.